You may believe that the measure of your manhood lies in whether your erections are as hard as stone, but I tell you, this belief is a prison of the mind. For the body merely reflects the state you occupy within. If you accept the lie that you are lacking, you live out that very lack. But if you dare to assume that you are whole, powerful, and desired, the body obeys. Tonight I ask you not to measure hardness, but to measure the power of your imagination, for it alone determines the reality you experience. When we think about erections, most men have been conditioned to picture something very specific, hard like a rock, rigid, unbending, almost mechanical in its strength. This idea has been drilled into us from media, from conversations, even from the way masculinity is portrayed in films and advertising. But let's pause for a moment and ask a very important question. Does this ideal actually reflect reality? Or is it just a standard that has been built on illusion and comparison? The truth is, many men carry anxiety because they believe anything less than an extremely hard, stone-like erection is a sign of weakness, failure, or even aging. But that belief alone creates stress, and stress is one of the biggest enemies of healthy sexual function. When a man sits there measuring himself against an unrealistic expectation, he places his mind in a cycle of self-doubt that directly affects performance. And here's where the illusion begins to show its cracks. Because the more pressure you put on yourself to achieve some mythical standard, the further you push yourself away from natural arousal and ease. Now, erections are not all or nothing. They are not only rock hard or completely soft. Erections exist on a spectrum. Physiologically, blood flow can vary, tissue response can vary, and even the firmness that you feel can fluctuate based on hydration, sleep, stress, hormones, and your overall health. But society rarely teaches men about this spectrum. Instead, men are shown a single version of masculinity: powerful, unshakable, always ready, and always performing at the highest level. That's simply not realistic, and it sets men up for disappointment. Think about this. The penis is made of smooth muscle and spongy tissue that fills with blood. Just like your heart rate isn't always pounding at maximum speed, your erections don't need to be maximized every single time to be meaningful, pleasurable, or satisfying. The illusion comes from comparison. Men compare themselves to what they see in pornography, where everything is exaggerated and unrealistic. They compare themselves to stories they hear from friends, often embellished. They compare themselves to a version of themselves in their 20s and think anything less is failure. But comparison robs you of presence. It takes you out of the moment and places you in judgment, and that judgment creates even more performance issues. It's important to understand that satisfaction in intimacy isn't dependent on whether an erection is unyielding like a rock. What truly matters is the connection between you and your partner, the pleasure you both feel, and the confidence you carry into the experience. Some men can maintain erections that are not at the so-called maximum hardness, yet still have deeply fulfilling, pleasurable, and lasting intimacy. But when your mind is locked on the illusion of hardness as the only measure, you miss the reality of satisfaction. I want you to also consider how this illusion impacts mental health. Men often avoid seeking help or having open conversations because they're ashamed that their erections don't look or feel like what they've been told is normal. This silence creates isolation, and isolation feeds fear. But when you understand that every man's body responds differently, that there's variation even within one person's lifetime, the pressure begins to dissolve. You realize that the illusion is not truth, it's just conditioning. Biologically, erections change as we age. Testosterone levels shift, vascular health plays a role, and nerves may not respond exactly the way they did decades earlier. That doesn't mean the body is broken. It means the body is alive, changing, adapting. Expecting the same rigidity at 60 as you had at 20 is like expecting to run at the same speed without ever slowing down. The illusion tells you something is wrong with you if you don't, but reality says you are human, and human experience includes change. Let's also bring in the role of lifestyle. Sleep, exercise, diet, alcohol, and stress all play a role in erection quality. Sometimes a man might feel less firm simply because he's exhausted, dehydrated, or anxious. If the mind interprets that as failure, the illusion strengthens its grip. But if instead you recognize it as a temporary fluctuation, you free yourself from unnecessary shame. You can focus on addressing the root causes rather than attacking yourself for not meeting an impossible standard. Another dimension to this illusion is the way men tie hardness to identity. Many believe their worth as a partner or even as a man is measured by the quality of their erections. This is one of the most damaging lies of all. A fulfilling, intimate relationship depends on communication, emotional presence, creativity, and connection, not just the physical state of one organ. When men realize this, they reclaim power. They stop letting their bodies be ruled by comparison and begin to embrace intimacy as a whole experience. And here's a truth most men don't hear enough. Many partners don't judge you by the hardness of your erection. They judge by how present you are, how connected you make them feel, how willing you are to explore and satisfy beyond penetration alone. The illusion blinds men into thinking that if their erection isn't unshakable, they've failed. But often that illusion exists only in their own minds, not in the minds of their partners. So let me challenge you with this thought. What if erections were never meant to be measured against an artificial standard at all? What if the real purpose is to allow pleasure, intimacy, and connection, not to reach some mythical benchmark of hardness? When you start to see it this way, the illusion begins to dissolve. You realize that your confidence doesn't come from being rock hard, but from being present, from embracing your body as it is, and from knowing that satisfaction is about the whole experience, not one exaggerated aspect. The moment you break free from this illusion, you take back control of your mind, your confidence, and your intimacy. You stop chasing what you think you must prove, and you begin enjoying what is already yours. That is where true power lies, not in the illusion of unyielding hardness, but in the reality of presence, connection, and authentic pleasure. Because when we strip away the illusion of rock-hard standards, what we begin to uncover is something far deeper, far more essential, the role of vital energy. You see, erections are not just a mechanical event where blood rushes into tissue. They are the outward expression of an inner state, the body's way of reflecting the harmony, balance, and vitality within you. When men obsess only about hardness, they miss the profound truth that what they're really experiencing is an echo of their overall energy, their life force, their vitality. Vital energy is not confined to sexual function. It flows through every aspect of your being. It is what fuels your clarity of thought, your stamina throughout the day, your resilience in the face of stress, and yes, your capacity for intimacy. When you are aligned in health, sleeping well, nourishing your body, moving daily, breathing deeply, this energy moves freely. Erections then become less of a struggle and more of a natural response to desire. But when you are depleted, when you run on stress, fatigue, poor nutrition, or suppressed emotions, that flow becomes blocked, and the body reveals this through changes in erection quality. Think of it this way. Your body is constantly communicating with you. A weaker erection is not a punishment, nor is it a verdict on your masculinity. It is a message that your vital energy is running low, that something in your lifestyle, your thoughts, or your environment is draining rather than nourishing you. Instead of panicking or shaming yourself, the wise response is to listen. What is my body telling me? What can I do to restore the flow of energy? Science supports this. Blood vessels must be healthy for erections to be firm, and that means cardiovascular health is at the very center of sexual function. If your heart is strong, your circulation vibrant, your arteries flexible, erections are more responsive. If blood vessels are narrowed, inflamed, or stressed, erections suffer. But notice the connection here. Your erection is not only about sex, it's a mirror of your entire vascular health. That's why many doctors call erectile changes the body's early warning system. They reveal issues in circulation before more serious conditions like heart attacks or strokes show up. In other words, your sexual health is not separate from your life energy. It's part of the same stream. But there's another dimension that goes beyond biology. Vital energy is also shaped by your emotional state, by your imagination, by how you perceive yourself. If your mind is cluttered with anxiety, fear of failure, or self-criticism, that energy is disrupted before it ever reaches the body. Stress hormones constrict vessels, prevent blood flow, and mute desire. Anxiety shifts your focus from feeling to performance, from connection to control, and the erection weakens. Now contrast that with moments when you feel confident, relaxed, connected, alive. In those moments, erections often come more easily, more naturally, without force. Why? Because your vital energy is flowing without obstruction. You're not questioning or measuring. You're immersed in the experience, and the body responds accordingly. This is why learning to manage stress, breathe deeply, move your body, And cultivate mental calm are not just lifestyle choices, they are direct investments in your sexual vitality. And here's where the earlier illusion ties in. When you stop obsessing over rock hard as the only measure, you stop draining energy on comparison and pressure. That energy, once wasted, can now flow freely into presence and pleasure. You transform the experience simply by redirecting your focus. Instead of demanding your body to meet a rigid standard, you invite it to express the vitality you are cultivating every day. Consider also how vitality is linked to purpose. When you live without direction, when each day feels like survival rather than creation, your energy leaks away. But when you are engaged with life, inspired, moving towards something meaningful, that vitality increases. Sexual energy is not isolated from this. It is connected to your overall sense of aliveness. Many men notice their desire and erections improve when they feel excited about life itself. That's not coincidence. It's proof that sexual energy and life energy are the same current. Think about food and movement. A diet heavy in processed food, sugar, and alcohol drains vitality. Sedentary habits weaken blood flow and create stagnation. But when you nourish your body with whole foods, hydrate, and move regularly, your energy returns. Erections reflect that change because they are fueled by the same circulation, the same hormones, the same nervous system balance. The penis doesn't exist apart from the body. It reveals the state of the whole. Even sleep plays a profound role. Nighttime erections are a natural occurrence, the body's way of maintaining tissue health. When you are sleep-deprived, these cycles are disrupted. Vital energy is depleted, testosterone production drops, and erectile strength weakens. Once again, the erection is not failing, it is signaling. It's showing you that energy is low, that rest is missing, that recovery is overdue. What becomes clear is that the truth about vital energy is far more empowering than the illusion of hardness. Because while you cannot always force your erection to behave like an unyielding rock, you can absolutely influence your energy. You can choose to care for your circulation, your nutrition, your stress levels, your mindset. You can choose to align with practices that replenish you rather than drain you. And as that energy grows, your body responds, not out of pressure, but out of vitality. So when you ask, does it matter if my erection is hard like a rock? The deeper answer is this. What matters is the state of your energy. Hardness alone does not guarantee satisfaction or health, but energy reflects your true vitality. If you nurture that energy, if you honor it through your choices, your presence, and your perspective, your body follows. And in that following, erections become less of a mystery and more of a mirror of the abundant life force moving through you. And once you begin to understand that your erections are a mirror of your energy rather than a scoreboard of hardness, the next step is learning to anchor yourself in confidence that is not built on comparison. This is where so many men stumble. They measure themselves against a partner's past, against unrealistic media images, or against a younger version of themselves. Each time they do, they silently tell their minds, "I'm not enough." That belief alone is powerful enough to interfere with performance more than any physical limitation ever could. Confidence, in its truest sense, is not about proving you are better, stronger, or harder than anyone else. Confidence is about being fully present in your own body, accepting your unique expression of vitality, and engaging in intimacy without carrying the weight of comparison. When you are caught up in comparison, your focus is split. You're not in the moment. You're half in your head, analyzing, doubting, questioning, and that internal chatter suffocates arousal. Your body can't relax, your blood vessels constrict, and the very thing you fear, losing firmness, becomes more likely. But imagine a different state. Imagine walking into intimacy with the mindset that your worth is not being graded, that your erection, whatever its degree of firmness, is simply one part of the experience, not the entire definition of it. That shift alone releases the grip of anxiety. Instead of monitoring, you are connecting. Instead of performing, you are feeling. And in that feeling, the body naturally responds more freely. Confidence beyond comparison also requires you to rewrite the narrative you've been telling yourself. Many men carry memories of times they didn't perform the way they wanted, and they replay those memories as if they define their identity. But those moments were simply snapshots of energy at a given time, times when stress, fatigue, or distraction interfered. They are not proof of weakness. They are not predictions of the future. True confidence is the ability to step into each moment fresh, without dragging past disappointments into the present. Your partner senses this more than you realize. When you approach intimacy with self-assurance, without fear or apology, that energy communicates far more than the hardness of your erection. It tells your partner, I am here, I am connected, I am with you. That presence is intoxicating. Many partners would choose presence, touch, and emotional connection over rigid perfection any day. Yet men often assume the opposite, assuming their partners demand a rock-like standard. This assumption creates a wedge where there could be deeper intimacy. To build confidence beyond comparison, you must also recognize the uniqueness of your body. Just as no two fingerprints are the same, no two men experience erections in exactly the same way. Some men are naturally firmer, some have more endurance, some fluctuate based on mood or environment. None of these variations make one man superior to another. They simply reflect the diversity of human physiology. When you accept your own uniqueness, you stop trying to force yourself into someone else's mold. And in that acceptance, confidence grows. One of the most powerful practices to develop this kind of confidence is shifting your focus from outcome to experience. Instead of asking, am I hard enough? Am I lasting long enough? Am I satisfying enough? Ask instead, am I present? Am I enjoying this? Am I connected? Those questions redirect energy away from measurement and into embodiment. The more embodied you are, the more natural your erection becomes, because the body is no longer under the command of fear. Confidence also grows when you invest in your health with self-respect, not self-criticism. If you exercise, eat well, and rest simply to avoid failure, you create a relationship with your body based on fear. But if you care for your body as an act of love, as a way of honoring your vitality, then you approach intimacy with pride instead of pressure. That pride, that quiet knowing that you are taking care of yourself, translates into confidence your partner can feel. And there's another subtle but powerful truth. When you stop comparing, you free your partner too. Comparison doesn't only weigh on men, it creates pressure in relationships. If you're silently measuring yourself against imagined standards, your partner feels that tension. They may feel they're being evaluated too, or that intimacy is a performance rather than a connection. But when you release comparison, you invite both of you into a space of freedom, where exploration, play, and pleasure can unfold naturally. Think about the men who appear most confident in life. Often it's not the ones who have the most muscle, the most money, or the most rigid erections. It's the ones who carry themselves with ease, who know who they are, who don't apologize for their uniqueness. This is the kind of confidence that transcends the bedroom. It spills into every area of your life. When you anchor in this kind of self-assurance, your partner feels it, and intimacy deepens far beyond physical measures. Let me also remind you, confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance is a shield used to hide insecurity. True confidence is quiet, grounded, and present. It doesn't need to announce itself, because it's not based on comparison. It's based on acceptance. And when you cultivate it, you find that your erections, whether rock hard or not, become less of a fixation and more of a natural extension of your energy. So the journey is not about becoming harder than someone else, or even harder than you used to be. The journey is about unshackling yourself from comparison and learning to trust your body as it is, in this moment. When you release that burden, intimacy transforms. What once felt like pressure becomes play. What once felt like judgment becomes freedom. And in that freedom, you discover that the real power was never in comparison. It was always in confidence. Because once you understand that confidence is not born from comparison but from presence and acceptance, you open the door to the most powerful force of all, the imagination. Too often we think of erections and intimacy as purely physical acts, but everything physical begins first in the unseen realm of the mind. Your imagination is the architect of your experience. The body only follows where the mind has already gone. If you imagine failure, if you imagine judgment, if you imagine yourself as weak or inadequate, the body has little choice but to mirror those thoughts. But when you imagine vitality,